The harvest begins. When the stars brought death. The Korthax Empire had been harvesting species for 600 years. They were efficient, methodical, and utterly without mercy. They didn't conquer worlds, they consumed them. Their ships arrived without warning. Massive biovessels that looked like living creatures made of metal and flesh. They descended from the stars and began the harvest. No negotiations. No demands. Just systematic collection of biological resources. The Korthax were apex predators on a galactic scale. They viewed other species the same way humans viewed livestock. Useful. Necessary. But not worthy of consideration as equals. High Harvester Crick stood in the observation chamber of the biovessel Endless Hunger. He watched the blue-green planet rotating below with the detached interest of a farmer surveying a new field. Analysis complete, his subordinate Dome reported. The planet contains 8.1 billion specimens of the dominant species. They call themselves humans. Protein-rich biology. Suitable for processing. Crick's feeding tendrils twitched with satisfaction. Excellent. Standard harvest protocols. We'll begin with the population centers. Maximum yield with minimum resistance. The Korthax had harvested 847 species across the galaxy. Some fought back initially. Some begged for mercy. All of them eventually ended up in the processing chambers, converted into the nutritional compounds that sustained the Korthax Empire. Earth would be no different. First contact with terror. Dr. Jennifer Zhao worked at the International Space Observatory in Chile. She was the first human to detect the Korthax ships entering the solar system. At first, she thought the readings were wrong. The objects were too large, moving too fast, exhibiting energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Dr. Zhao, her assistant, called out. "You need to see this." On the main display, 6 enormous vessels were approaching Earth. They weren't shaped like traditional spacecraft. They looked organic, twisting, pulsing masses that seemed to grow and shift as they moved. Jennifer's hand shook as she reached for the emergency contact system. Within minutes, military installations across the globe were tracking the objects. Within hours, world leaders were in emergency conference. The Korthax sent no message. Made no attempt at communication. They simply arrived. The first biovessel descended over Tokyo. It was 3 kilometers across, blocking out the sky. The city below fell into shadow. Then the harvest began. Tendrils extended from the vessel, massive organic cables that reached down into the city. Where they touched, people disappeared. Pulled up into the ship in groups of hundreds. Buildings were torn apart as the tendrils searched for more prey. The Japanese self-defense forces responded immediately. Fighter jets fired missiles at the vessel. Tanks opened fire from the streets below. Artillery batteries launched everything they had. The weapons struck the biovessel's surface and simply stopped. Absorbed into the organic hull like raindrops hitting water. The ship didn't even slow down. Within 3 hours, Tokyo had lost 2 million people. The same scene played out in New York, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Lagos, London. The Korthax didn't discriminate. They harvested everywhere simultaneously. Humanity watched in horror as their species was being collected like crops. The thing about prey. General Marcus Stone stood in the emergency command center deep beneath the Pentagon. Around him, military leaders from every nation coordinated their response. Every response had failed. "We've thrown everything at them," the Chinese general said, his voice tight with desperation. "Nuclear weapons just get absorbed. Biological agents have no effect. They're completely impervious to our attacks." "Not completely," Stone said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Explain," the Russian commander demanded. Stone pulled up tactical data from the Tokyo engagement. "Watch carefully. When we hit them with conventional weapons, they absorb the impact. But there's a delay, 0.7 seconds, between impact and absorption. During that delay, the hull surface shows stress markers. So what? Someone asked. 0.7 seconds isn't enough time to do anything. It is if we're creative, Stone replied. He switched to a different display showing Earth's industrial capacity. The Korthax made a mistake. They see us as prey. They think we're going to run, hide, beg for mercy. They don't understand what we actually are. And what are we? Asked the Indian representative. Stone's smile was cold. We're the species that conquered an entire planet full of predators. We're the species that turned wolves into pets and made viruses work for us. We're the species that looked at the deadliest places on Earth and decided to live there anyway. We don't run from predators. We eliminate them. Humanity's response. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo led the emergency research team at CERN. They had 72 hours to develop a weapon that could hurt the Korthax. 72 hours before the biovessels completed their current harvest and moved to the next population centers. The problem is the absorption field, Sarah explained to her team. It catches our weapons before they can do real damage. We need something it can't catch. A young physicist named David Chen spoke up. What if we don't try to penetrate the field? What if we overload it? Sarah turned to him. Explain. The absorption field has to process whatever energy it catches, David said, sketching quickly on a tablet. When we hit it with missiles, it absorbs the kinetic energy and disperses it through the ship's biological systems. But what if we hit it with more energy than it can process? We tried nuclear weapons, someone pointed out. Not enough of them at once, David replied. The field processes energy in sequence. But if we hit multiple points simultaneously with sustained high-energy beams. Sarah's eyes widened. We could cause a feedback cascade. The field would try to absorb all the energy at once, but it wouldn't be able to disperse it fast enough. Exactly, David said. It would be like forcing someone to drink from a fire hose. The system gets overwhelmed. They had an idea. Now they needed to build it. The weapon humanity built. The Aurora project came together in 60 hours. Every nation contributed. Every resource was mobilized. Humanity, for the first time in its history, worked as one species with one purpose. They took every high-energy laser system on Earth, industrial cutters, research tools, military prototypes, experimental weapons, and networked them together. They positioned them in coordinated firing patterns around the globe. Then they built the targeting AI. An artificial intelligence system designed for one purpose: coordinate simultaneous strikes on multiple points of the Korthax biovessels with split-second precision. General Stone watched the preparations from the command center. Will it work? He asked Sarah. Honestly? Sarah replied. I have no idea. We're attempting something that's never been done before. We're trying to kill something that's been apex predator of the galaxy for 600 years. But you think it might work? Sarah looked at the display showing the Korthax vessels hovering over major cities, still harvesting. Still collecting humans like they were nothing more than resources. It has to work, she said. Because the alternative is extinction. Operation Apex. The Korthax biovessel over London began its descent toward the next harvest zone. High Harvester Crix monitored the operation with satisfaction. The human specimens were high quality. This planet would provide resources for years. Alert, Delm reported suddenly. We're detecting unusual energy signatures across the planet's surface. Weapons? Crix asked without concern. The humans had been attacking for 3 days. Nothing had worked. Unknown configuration, Delm said. Multiple energy sources powering up simultaneously. Crix was about to dismiss the report when something changed. The energy signatures weren't random. They were coordinated. Hundreds of them, all focusing on specific points across the hull of every Korthax vessel simultaneously. Evasive, Crix began. The Aurora system fired. 347 high-energy lasers struck the biovessel over London from every angle at the exact same microsecond. Each beam hit a different point on the absorption field. Each beam sustained maximum output. The field tried to absorb the energy, tried to disperse it through the ship's biological systems. But there was too much, too fast, from too many directions. The field overloaded. For the first time in 600 years, a Korthax biovessel screamed. The organic hull began to burn. Not from the lasers themselves, but from its own absorption field feeding back energy it couldn't process. The vessel writhed in the sky, its organic systems failing. It tried to retreat, to climb back to orbit. But the lasers didn't stop. Humanity had learned something important about predators. When you hurt them, you don't stop until they're dead. The biovessel over London fell from the sky. 3 kilometers of alien biotechnology crashed into the Thames River, sending a tsunami through the city. But it was dead. All across Earth, the same scene repeated. Mumbai, New York, Sao Paulo, every Korthax vessel under sustained, coordinated attack. Every absorption field overloading. Every predator learning what it meant to face prey that fought back. In orbit, High Harvester Crix watched his fleet die. His feeding tendrils trembled with an emotion he had never experienced before. Fear. The message. General Stone stood in front of a camera, broadcasting to every surviving Korthax vessel fleeing Earth's orbit. This is General Marcus Stone of Earth. I'm sending this message to whoever leads your species. You came to our world thinking we were prey. You were wrong. We're not prey. We're not livestock. We're humans. And we remember. He gestured to the wreckage of the Korthax vessels burning in Earth's atmosphere. You've harvested 847 species before us. We know this because we accessed your ship's databases before we destroyed them. We have the coordinates of every world you've harvested. Every species you've consumed. Stone's voice went cold. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this sector of space and never return. Because if you come back, we won't just defend ourselves. We'll hunt you. We'll find your home world. And we'll show you what it feels like to be harvested. The transmission ended. In the weeks that followed, Earth buried its dead. 4 million people had been taken in the first harvest. 4 million losses that would never be forgotten. But humanity also began to change. They had faced predators from the stars and won. They had proven something important. In a galaxy full of predators and prey, humanity was neither. They were something else entirely. Something new. Something dangerous. They were survivors who refused to be victims. And they were just getting started. The hunters emerge. When prey becomes predator. 6 months after the Korthax attack, the United Earth Space Command commissioned its first interstellar warship. They called it the Defiant. It wasn't built for exploration or diplomacy. It was built for one purpose: hunting. Captain Rachel Torres stood on the bridge during the launch ceremony. She was 35 years old, former fighter pilot, survivor of the New York harvest. She had watched her city burn while Korthax tendrils pulled people into the sky. She had volunteered for this mission the moment it was announced. All systems green, her engineer reported. Full drive ready for first jump. Rachel looked at her crew. 40 men and women from 20 different nations. Every single one of them had lost someone to the Korthax. Every single one had volunteered to do something unprecedented in human history. They were going hunting. Set course for the coordinates we extracted from the Korthax database, Rachel ordered. First stop, Kepler 442b. Intelligence suggests it was harvested approximately 8 years ago. Her first officer, Commander James Park, looked concerned. Captain, if there were survivors, they'd been on their own for 8 years. They might not trust us. Then we'll earn their trust, Rachel replied. But first, we need to find them. The Defiant engaged its full drive, technology reverse-engineered from the destroyed Korthax vessels. Reality twisted, and Earth's first warship disappeared into the space between stars. The survivors of Kepler 442b. The planet was dead. That was Rachel's first thought when they entered orbit. The surface was scarred with massive impact craters. Cities lay in ruins. The atmosphere was choked with ash. Scanning for life signs, the science officer reported. Nothing on the surface. Wait. I'm picking up something underground. Looks like artificial structures. Deep, maybe 5 kilometers down. Rachel felt her pulse quicken. Life signs? Multiple. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They're alive down there. The landing party took a shuttle down to the surface. They found the entrance to the underground complex hidden in the ruins of what had once been a major city. The doors were sealed, reinforced with scavenged materials. Rachel approached the entrance and activated her communicator. This is Captain Rachel Torres of the United Earth Space Command. We're humans from Earth. We survived a Korthax harvest 6 months ago. We're here to help. Silence greeted them. Then, slowly, the doors began to open. The being that emerged was humanoid but not human. Tall, thin, with iridescent skin and large compound eyes. It held a weapon, crude but functional, pointed at Rachel's chest. Humans, the being said through a translation device. We heard rumors. A species that fought the Korthax and survived. We thought it was just hope talking. Desperation making us believe in fairy tales. It's not a fairy tale, Rachel replied. We killed 6 Korthax biovessels. We're here because we accessed their database. We know what they did to your world. We know they harvested 4.3 billion of your people. The being's weapon lowered slightly. I am Keeper Vash. I lead what remains of the Quellan species. 3,000 survivors in this shelter. 3,000 out of billions. Rachel felt rage burning in her chest. The Korthax will pay for what they did. To your people. To ours. To everyone they've harvested. But we need your help. How can we help? Vash asked bitterly. We couldn't even defend our own world. You survived, Rachel said. That means you're strong. You adapted. You endured. And now you can fight back. Come with us. Help us find other survivors. Help us build an alliance. Help us hunt the hunters. Vash stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, the Quellan keeper holstered his weapon. I never thought I'd see the day when someone offered to avenge my people, Vash said quietly. When do we start? Building the alliance. Over the next year, the Defiant visited 17 worlds that had been harvested by the Korthax. They found survivors on 12 of them. Not many, a few thousand here, a few hundred there. But they found them. Each species had its own story of survival. The Quellan had gone underground. The Tharsis had fled to their planet's frozen poles. The Meridians had hidden in deep ocean trenches. Every species had adapted, endured, and waited. Now they had hope. Rachel stood in the conference room aboard the Defiant, looking at the representatives of 7 different species. They were all survivors. All warriors in their own right. The Korthax Empire is vast, Rachel explained, displaying a star map. They control approximately 600 systems. They have hundreds of biovessels. But they have a weakness. And what weakness is that? Asked Speaker Thrawn of the Tharsis. They're nearly invulnerable. They're overconfident, Rachel replied. They've been apex predators for 600 years. They don't expect resistance anymore. They don't adapt because they've never needed to. She zoomed in on a system marked in red. This is Korthax Prime. Their home world. It's heavily defended, but all those defenses point outward. They're designed to stop invasions from space. They're not designed to stop something else. What else is there? Keeper Vash asked. Rachel smiled coldly. Insurgency. Sabotage. The kind of warfare that humans have perfected over thousands of years. We're not going to invade Korthax Prime with warships. We're going to infect it with something they've never encountered before. And what is that? Thrawn asked. Ideas, Rachel said. Resistance. The knowledge that prey can fight back. We're going to find the species the Korthax have enslaved on their home world, the ones they use as servants and workers. And we're going to teach them how to rebel. Operation Liberation. Commander Park led the infiltration team. 6 humans, 4 Quellans, and 2 Tharsis. They traveled to Korthax Prime aboard a captured biovessel, wearing Korthax biosuits that made them appear to be returning harvesters. The deception worked. They landed on Korthax Prime without challenge. The planet was beautiful in a disturbing way. Massive organic structures that looked like they'd been grown rather than built. The Korthax lived in these structures, feeding on the processed nutrients from their harvests. But they didn't do all the work themselves. Throughout the cities, James saw other species. Smaller beings performing maintenance, transport, and construction. Slaves. The team made contact with a group of these slaves, a species called the Ven. They were small, quick, and had been serving the Korthax for over a century. We can help you, James told their leader, a female named Kessa. We can teach you how to fight back. Kessa looked at him with eyes full of fear. Fight the Korthax? That's suicide. They'll kill us all. They're already killing you, James replied. Just slowly. Wouldn't you rather die fighting for freedom than live as slaves? Kessa was silent for a long time. Then, what do you need us to do? The revolution begins. The plan was simple but dangerous. The Ven slaves had access to the biovessel's maintenance systems. They could plant explosive charges throughout the fleet. Not enough to destroy the vessels, but enough to damage their organic systems and ground them. Meanwhile, other slave species would sabotage the planet's defenses. Communications arrays. Orbital platforms. Anything that would leave Korthax Prime vulnerable. It took 3 months to prepare. 3 months of secret meetings, smuggled weapons, and whispered plans. 3 months of building a network of resistance across an entire planet. High Harvester Crix, promoted after surviving the Earth incident, sensed something was wrong. Reports of minor system failures were increasing. Equipment malfunctions. Communication glitches. Small things that individually meant nothing. But together, they formed a pattern. Increase security protocols, Crix ordered. Inspect all slave workers. There may be saboteurs among them. But it was too late. The revolution began at midnight across Korthax Prime. Explosions ripped through biovessel hangars. Defense platforms went dark. Communication systems failed. And in the streets, the slaves rose up. They weren't warriors. They were janitors, cooks, maintenance workers. But they were angry. They were desperate. And they were done being prey. Commander Park's team led attacks on key military installations. They'd trained the Ven in guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run strategies, and improvised weapons. The Korthax, caught completely by surprise, fell back in confusion. High Harvester Crix watched his perfect world descend into chaos. How is this possible? He demanded. The slaves have no military training. No weapons. No leadership. They have all 3 now, his aide replied, showing him footage of human soldiers fighting alongside Ven rebels. The humans taught them. Crix felt that familiar feeling again. Fear. The message to the galaxy. Captain Rachel Torres broadcast from orbit above Korthax Prime as the revolution raged below. This is Captain Torres of Earth to all species in the galaxy. For 600 years, the Korthax have told you that resistance is futile. That prey will always be prey. They were wrong. The broadcast showed footage of the uprising. Ven rebels fighting Korthax soldiers. Biovessels burning in their hangars. An empire in flames. The Korthax came to Earth thinking we were prey. We showed them otherwise. Now we're showing every species they've enslaved the same thing. You are not prey. You are not livestock. You are sentient beings with the right to determine your own fate. Rachel's voice strengthened. Earth is forming an alliance. The coalition of free worlds. Every species that's been harvested, enslaved, or threatened by the Korthax is welcome to join us. Together, we're strong enough to end their reign of terror. She paused. To the Korthax Empire, this is your only warning. Release all enslaved species. Pay reparations to the worlds you've harvested. Accept oversight from the coalition. Or we will dismantle your empire piece by piece, world by world, until nothing remains but the memory of what happens to predators who mistake sentience for prey. The new galaxy. The Korthax Empire didn't fall in a day. It took 3 years of coordinated military action, insurgency, and diplomatic pressure. But eventually, the empire that had ruled through fear for 600 years collapsed. The coalition of free worlds grew to include 47 species. Former prey became partners. Former victims became protectors. Captain Torres, now Admiral Torres, stood on the bridge of the Defiant as they prepared for their first peaceful exploration mission. The war was over. Now came the harder work of building something better. Admiral, Commander Park said. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. The Council wants to know where we're headed next. Rachel looked at the star map. So many worlds out there. So many species that might need help. Tell them we're going exploring, Rachel replied. We're going to find other species that might be facing threats they can't handle alone. We're going to offer them what no one offered us, a choice. Partnership, not conquest. Alliance, not subjugation. And if we find more predators? Park asked. Rachel's smile was cold. Then we remind them that Earth didn't survive by being prey. We survived by becoming something predators never expect. And what's that? Worse than them. The Defiant jumped to fold space, carrying humanity's message to the stars. In a galaxy that had been divided into predator and prey for millennia, humanity had created a third category. They were survivors, warriors, and liberators. They were the species that looked at the food chain and decided they didn't like where they'd been placed. So they changed it.